So at the moment, I don't think we can speak to Fred. We'll try and clear that line up. In the meantime, let me pull up this email from Issa in Sierra Leone, writing on Facebook. And he has to say, human error is part of the game. Goal line technology is expensive, so poor countries may not be able to afford it. Would you think that is a justifiable concern?
Oh, I think that's very justifiable. I think if they roll out goal line technology, they'll have in all the top leagues in Europe, the Premier League, the Bundesliga and such, and the African leagues, will they be able to afford to have it? So these European leagues will just move further and further away from the African leagues and such like that.
Jesus, that's got to be a concern, hasn't it? That some places will afford it far more than others.
Well, first, I think the technology is not that expensive. It's, most of that technology could be cheap. I mean, they can be creative about using cameras at the right angle, and cameras are so cheap nowadays, and this could be done. But I don't think there's going to be that difference. The game at the end will be the same, and people from Ghana will be playing good, no matter if they have this technology or not. It's pretty simple, I think. It's not that different.
So you say it's simple, but would you just have this for, say, goals and whether they've crossed the line or not? Or should we get involved with things like Kaka getting that red card against Ivory Coast when Keita rolled around on the floor like he'd been punched in the face when Kaka's arm had gone nowhere near him? Should we introduce it for that kind of thing?
Well, I think that should be introduced. I mean, yeah, the problem is that it's a little bit. You can discuss about that a little bit. You know, where do you put the line? But at the end of the day, I think some basic measures should be introduced right away, and then the other things will be introduced slowly, and I think they should be done too.
Desiree, let me bring you back in. You're the only player on today's programme. Were there times when you got frustrated playing in internationals and wish you had technology, or do you agree with the fans who are getting in touch saying the controversy is part of it? It's why people like to watch this game. It's also why people like to play it.
I think it's really important, but not for each and every decision. I mean, I think it would basically be used for goal lines. I saw in the Europa League that they use another referee. I think decisions like red cards and that, the English Premier League has got quite a good system going where they have a review system, because otherwise you would have too many stops in the game. And football is a flowing game, but for example, last night's decision with Frank Lampard, the way the ball came down, it would have taken less than 10 seconds to make a decision with a video ref. So in instances like that, it wouldn't be a continuous replay for about 4 or 5 minutes like they sometimes do in rugby. So I think it would really help to a certain extent, because as a player you become very frustrated when it has happened. You know it's a goal, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Thanks very much for those comments, Desiree. If you're just joining us, this is World Cup Have Your Say on BBC World News. We're talking about technology. I probably don't need to tell you why. There was that first Tevez goal against Mexico yesterday. He was yards offside, but the goal stood. And then a few hours before that, Frank Lampard, when England were 2-1 down against Germany, hit the bar. The ball crashed well over the goal line before coming back up, hitting the bar and being caught by the German keeper. That goal wasn't given. Fabio Capello says the whole tone of the game changed because of that. Lots of you are pointing out England would probably have lost anyway. Let's bring in our next guest. Akosia Amu is with us from Accra. Akosia, great to have you on World Cup Have Your Say. Would you like to see the future Black Stars games have technology used in them?
Yeah, I would love the idea. But the problem with this goal line technology, it wouldn't take much time, but then there will be the need to introduce other technologies to check touch lines, throw-ins, and that will really affect African teams and African leagues, because African leagues cannot afford to get these kind of technologies in the game. Most of the time, even paying the referees is a problem. Then come to think about getting these technologies will be something a problem for us as Africans. That's one disadvantage about the goal line technology. And
tell us, when we just get off the subject for a moment, what's the atmosphere like in Accra? I can only imagine what it's going to be like on Oxford Street in a couple of days' time.
Yeah, the Oxford Street was a carnival that Friday. It was exciting. A lot of people were having fun, happy, because we've made history in Ghana and we've helped Africa. Because it's time. Shakira made the song "It's Time for Africa," and unfortunately 5 African teams had to kiss goodbye to the World Cup. So we're really happy that we could be the torchbearers for Africa.
All right, great to have you. James, you could do with her cap.
Yeah, I could send it over. I wish I was out there fighting in Ghana.
It would be great. Jesus, let me bring you in on the FIFA response. They've completely dead-batted this, to use a cricketing phrase. They've refused to consider changing their approach to technology in this tournament. There's no hint they may even look at it in the future. Do you think they're right to push this issue away mid-tournament?
I think this tournament should be played like it is, and then the lessons learned here should be taken into the next one. But yeah, you shouldn't change the rules mid-tournament.
Baff, what about you? Would you like to see Sepp Blatter move quickly on this and say, actually, let's introduce something now?
No, that would be a knee-jerk. I think you saw the. Did you see the press conference this morning? It was hilarious. He was just no commenting everything. I think. The concern is to undermine the referees who have to referee matches today and for the rest of the tournament over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, it needs to be looked at. I think it undermines the credibility of the game. And the concern that African or poorer leagues won't be able to afford the technology, that's a non-issue, because the deep fundamental issues that beset most African leagues isn't technology, it's administration of the game, period. And Akoto mentioned paying referees and things like that, basics that are symptomatic of how poorer leagues, lower leagues are managed. But where you have the arena to really put the game on show at a World Cup, a Champions League final, these are the places, these are the arenas where you need to be able to put everything on the table and make the game credible for everyone who's watching.
Before they'd even been knocked out after Nigeria's second game, people were already phoning us on BBC World Service Radio saying the problem's not the players, it's the administration. And in some countries which have been represented in this World Cup, there's clearly a lack of faith in the administrators to provide basic refereeing, basic training. And there's also a scepticism that technology could be implemented correctly. Now, it's worth going back to this man because he's Iranian-American. He's on the phone from Tennessee and he's called Fred. And get this, he's a Brazil fan as well. We've managed to get Fred Bidell on the phone. Hi, Fred. Great to speak to you.
Thank you. Go Brazil.
Go Brazil. Why are you saying go Brazil?
They're just the way that they are, and I'm looking forward to their successful conclusion of this World Cup that has been fantastic and wonderful to watch so far.
Okay, so you're supporting Brazil, but do you also support technology being introduced?
I think technology has already been introduced in World Cup in soccer in various areas. We just need to add another dimension to it, to add basically the referee's job to allow them and assist them to make a more knowledgeable decision.
Thank you very much indeed for that point. I mean, there's an issue here, Jesus, that we're talking about knowledgeable decisions, but really isn't the whole point of football. And we've got piles of emails here saying that part of it is debating the decisions. Don't you remove a whole part of football culture if you can't go down to the pub or the local coffee shop and have a chat about what the referee got right or wrong?
That's a good point. And I think if technology is introduced in football, we will miss part of that. But I think still there will be plenty to discuss about. I mean, we can lambast Capello no matter how technology is introduced in the game.
Let me read you a couple more emails. Matthew's in Paris. He says, I'm surprised that FIFA isn't doing more to protect its flagship event from the ridicule of refereeing mistakes. Using video technology is a no-brainer. Everyone wants the right decision.